All right. Happy Sabbath, everyone. Glad to be back with you all. Um, and I know I've given more time this time, but I will be preaching, I think, Sister Grace told me July 18th. So maybe on that day, I'll give you a really full version of this presentation. Um, but for right now, what I want to do is I'll do a little review of what we talked about the last time and then go into some new information, if that's okay with you guys. And then I'll jump off because I know you still have a good bit of program left after that. So we're talking about the immune system. This is from the last time. I mentioned that the virus is a fiery virus, meaning it is pro-inflammatory. And that's really how it works. If you look at this slide here, you see there's a hyper-inflammatory phase where there's something called a cytokine storm. And during that time, the immune system basically goes into overdrive. And when the immune system goes into overdrive and is completely unchecked, because it's trying to get rid of a virus or deal with the consequences of a virus, the immune system itself begins to cause the damage. So when you look here, this is how the cytokine storm happens. If you just look at the bottom, this is the multi-organ failure. You get infiltrates into the lungs, you get damage to the lungs, which leads to acute respiratory distress syndrome. You can get cardiovascular shock, so the heart gets into trouble. The kidneys then get into trouble, and you can actually get where the blood just starts to clot up. This all happens because of how the virus comes in. We talked last time about the ACE2 receptors that are critical to maintaining and managing blood pressure. So one of the reasons people who have that, one group of people who get very sick from this are people with high blood pressure. And so it is really important, if you have high blood pressure, that you are taking care of yourself in this time, because high blood pressure is a major risk factor for this disease. So that's one of the things to point out. Of course, this shows you those diseases. Hypertension in New York, when this thing really flared up there horribly. Now it's in California, Texas, Arizona, the Carolinas, and Florida are pretty bad. But you see, the diseases that put you at risk are high blood pressure, diabetes, elevated cholesterol, heart disease, specifically that related to having had a heart attack, kidney disease, dementia, more lung disease, COPD, cancer, and a couple others there at the bottom. So we know this, and we know that African Americans disproportionately get the disease. So I'll show you this slide again here, where you can see that even though, for example, Chicago is 30% black, blacks are 69% of the deaths. So that shows you that it is disproportionate. The other group that is disproportionate for are Latinos, who also have a higher death rate and hospitalization rate in many areas than their population would mandate. We talked about the fact last time that vitamin D is critical. So, when you look at this here, you can see that vitamin D is critical. Those with normal vitamin D levels basically almost always have mild disease. Those with low, severe low, or critically low vitamin D levels are the ones who it correlates have much more of the severe disease that leads them to hospitalization and death. And of course, in America, basically no one has enough vitamin D. So we talked a little bit about stressed. Stressed is dessert spelled backwards. If you look at this, so people often choose to eat differently when they're stressed out, and that's one of the big things that we talk about when I do my talks. We talked about zinc and how important it is. I'll just remind you that zinc is important, and people take zinc supplements. You can do that. Far better to get your zinc from beans like garbanzo beans, from vegetables like asparagus and spinach, mushrooms like shiitake and crimini, plain white mushrooms, all rich in zinc. And nuts, Mother Nature's healthiest all-around snacks, and you can get zinc from pine nuts, pecans, almonds, walnuts, peanuts, and hazelnuts. Nuts, whole grain, and we mentioned that raw oats, 1 cup gives you 27%, 1/3 of your daily need for zinc. And same, cooked brown rice is 13%. A whole wheat slice of bread, and I recommend the Ezekiel 4:9 bread. If you guys haven't heard of that, it's an Adventist-owned company. who makes bread based on the biblical verses. And quinoa is also a good one. So we talked a bit about quercetin, an antiviral pigment in food. It's also important. It goes along with zinc. You can get it from elderberries, red onions, white onions, cranberries, blueberries, kale, spinach. You can see the list there on the screen. And when they work together. The quercetin opens up the cell for zinc to come in. If your cells are full of zinc, when the virus goes in there, the virus wants to hijack the machinery of your cell to make more virus. If your cell is full of zinc, the virus can't do that. And so that's why zinc and quercetin going together work good. Quercetin opens up the cell so zinc can get in. And that's what those pictures are showing. So here's part 2. And in this one, I want to highlight the importance of eating mushrooms. So we're going to go through a few things that are good to eat. And then on the next one, I'll talk about the foods that you should not eat if you want to beat the coronavirus. So I know in a lot of cultures, especially in a lot of black cultures, they don't like eating mushrooms. My parents are Jamaican, and Jamaicans in general don't eat mushrooms. But mushrooms actually are good for you. I'll read this. Clinical studies show that mushrooms have benefits that range from improved cognition to weight management, lower cancer risk. Preliminary evidence suggests that mushrooms support a healthy immune system, a healthy immune response, I should say, and they lower inflammation. And this probably is why they are good things to be eating if you're dealing with or worried about the coronavirus. And through interaction with the gut microbiota, they improve immune cell functionality. So mushrooms work on what we call now the unseen organ of the microbiota of the intestines. And you can see here that if you look here, natural bioactive compounds, if you look at the first study in the upper right-hand corner from the journal Molecules, it says natural bioactive compounds from fungi as potential candidates for protease inhibitors and immune modulators to apply for coronaviruses. So they are beginning to think mushrooms may directly be able to fight the coronavirus by the way that they work with the microbiota and the way that they work in the body. And then here, antiviral agents from fungi, diversity mechanisms, and potential applications. More of that research has been done. So that's mushrooms. The next thing is green leafy vegetables. And I know many of you are in Southern Africa, and I even know there's some in the Caribbean. So in the Caribbean, we eat callaloo. And here in America, as Black Americans, we eat a lot of collard greens, spinach. And Africa actually has the most super greens in the world. The continent of Africa has the richest greens on the planet. So if you are in Africa and you can eat the greens that are indigenous to Africa, you gain an advantage over the rest of the world. So very important to eat lots of leafy green vegetables because of the antioxidants. When the sun hits the plant, the ultraviolet rays want to destroy the plant. So God put in the plant antioxidants that actually stop the ultraviolet rays from oxidizing the plant. So if you open up a banana, it turns brown quickly because there's not a lot of antioxidants in the meat of a banana. But if you take a blueberry, it takes a long time for a blueberry to turn brown because it's full of antioxidants. Those antioxidants and even the pigment that makes the plant green circulates in the body and actually fights disease and keeps us healthy. It's interesting because when God put man out of the Garden of Eden, one of the foods he gave him to eat were vegetables. And I honestly believe it's because of the way vegetables would interact with good and bad bacteria in the gut. And because of the antioxidant properties, when sin entered the world, God added vegetables as a way to protect man from disease. And so eating lots of vegetables is very important. We talked about nuts and seeds last time, again, rich in zinc, healthy fats, proteins, very good for the immune system. And one of the things I didn't probably mention the last time is a compound called resveratrol. Rich in blueberries, blackberries, all the dark berries. Resveratrol has been shown in some studies to reduce the length of viral illnesses like the coronavirus. And is a natural fungicide. So you won't get ringworm and funguses if you're eating lots of resveratrol-rich foods like blackberries and blueberries and so forth. The other thing and the last thing we'll talk about today is curcumin from turmeric. It's an orange yellow component of turmeric, curcuma longa. It's a spice often found in curry powder, traditionally known for its anti-inflammatory effects. So here's why curcumin and turmeric and curry are so important. They have anti-inflammatory effects that have been documented. And this diagram from one of the medical journals I pulled on the right-hand side here shows you just how it works to prevent chronic disease by inflammation. Lots of cultures. Jamaicans eat a lot of curry. East Indians eat a lot of curry. And in those cultures, we find there's less cancer. And you find less damage to the body. So it's really important. And one of the things it says here is that and for 2 decades, studies have shown curcumin to be a potent immunomodulatory agent that can modulate the activation of T cells, B cells, macrophages, neutrophils, natural killer cells, and dendritic cells. In other words, it makes the immune system heightened and work incredibly well. And then, of course, it downregulates the release of these compounds here. I won't get too into it, but this is a TNF, tumor necrosis factor, and IL-1 is interleukin, 1, 2, 6, 8, and 12, and some other chemokines. All of these things work to make a big inflammatory response. Curcumin helps your body manage that so that you get the inflammatory response that will help save your life, but not the one that will actually damage your body and work to take your life. So I'm gonna finish there today. I know I have more time, but I'll be back in a couple weeks. We'll do some more extended stuff. I do want you to go to our YouTube channel. It's the Slave Food Project. There's some great videos we're putting up on there. I'm gonna actually put all of this information on there this week, except in a longer version. So please check that out. I appreciate the invitation. Love the time I get to have with you guys. For those of you who are in South Africa, I send greetings. I love visiting South Africa, and I hope I'm able to get there again next year. I absolutely love South Africa. I've preached all over South Africa, and absolutely love the country. So God bless you all, and happy Sabbath.